Everybody, it's Dr. Dickenson. So it's the end of the school year and you may be wondering, how do I get my students re-engaged in learning, right? Because it's that time. They're staring out the window and wondering, is summer here? Because it's knocking at our door. And certainly you want to optimize this time, especially this year. There's been learning loss, there's been so much going on, and just seizing that opportunity to share your passion about your subject matter and what you're doing and bringing it into the classroom. So let's talk about 5 ways that you can re-engage your learners and maximize your time together at the end of the school year. And because this is Teacher Prep Tech and we always talk about research, I'm going to let you know the research behind this. And actually, this was my dissertation. I looked at engagement and looked at 3 indexes of engagement, which came out from a study from Fredericks, which had a measure of engagement based on 3 indexes, which are behavioral engagement, so how well students are following rules, doing what their expectations are, emotional engagement, which is their connection, their sense of belonging, their connections to their teacher, their peers, how engaged they feel emotionally into their classroom, and then cognitive engagement, right? And obviously, we think about cognitive engagement, and that's the learning that happens, but certainly, we can't get to cognitive engagement unless we have those other 2 pieces, right? Unless our students are doing what we're asking them to do and they feel purpose and they feel emotionally connected and part of that classroom. So those other 2 pieces of emotional engagement and behavioral engagement are just as important as cognitive engagement. In fact, there is a strong correlation there. So let's talk about engagement. Okay, no matter what grade you're teaching, emotional engagement certainly can be encapsulated in those connections that your students are having with you and their peers. So one way that you can do that and you can bring it into your work is setting goals with your kiddos. Now, and I know it's almost the end of the school year, but it's a great opportunity for your students to reflect on what they've learned, think about how much they've grown, share with them that rich data that you've collected, and have them set goals. Have them think about what they've accomplished and what they want to do next. So maximizing that time to really build in some of that metacognitive piece, that metacognitive work that is so critical in terms of getting our students to really be self-directed learners, and set your goals. And I'll share a link to my goal setting chart in the comments of this video. Another way that you can re-engage your learners after you've set those goals is you can gamify learning, right? What kid does not like playing games? I bought some stock in Roblox. But moving on, we can always engage our students through games, and whether they are digital games, like having them go onto a website. One of my favorite for social studies is iCivics. It is so much fun. And certainly there's a ton out there for math, whether it's Desmos or Academics or Mr. Newsom's Pizza Shop, where they're making pizzas and fractions and ice cream. Gamifying learning does all 3 things of that emotional engagement piece, right? It gives them that immediate feedback, so they're emotionally checked in. They're getting coins, so that behavioral piece, boom, on point. And that cognitive engagement is also happening because they're learning, they're feeling challenged, so they're more likely to persist and keep trying. So gamifying learning, and it can also take place in other ways. You can get some of your favorite game boards or even decks of cards and have some time in your classroom, which we did our Fun Time Fridays in my math class, and the kids would play games and they would have choice what games they wanted to play. Prime Climb, definitely one of my favorites. You kids will always know what factors and multiples are and prime numbers after playing Prime Climb. So check that out. Number 3, you want to turn your kiddos' passion into projects. So if you're familiar with project-based learning, I am a huge fan of it, and certainly PBL Works is a wonderful site where you can go and get and curate projects, but you can also find projects other ways. You can look at current events and you can have your students find a solution to a problem that is going on, right? So build on their passions. If you have students that are interested in certain sports or activities, have them do research, have them look into the history of, a topic that they're interested in. So you might want to do like an inventory and find out their interests. Have them work collaboratively. Even if you are in a 6 feet distance, they can still work collaboratively on projects with their peers. That's always emotionally engaging. They could do that via Google Slides. So lots of ways that you can build PBL into your classroom. And certainly just checking out some different resources, either STEM-based projects. There's a ton on the NASA website and so many resources that are already out there. Now's the time to do it. Seize those opportunities, because if you haven't been doing projects all year long, then the novelty of a project is certainly going to get your students re-engaged in learning, and that's what it's all about. Another piece that you may consider, and my students love this in my math class, is take the learning outdoors, right? Because it's almost summer and we always want to go outside when the weather is nice. It's just in our DNA. So find ways that you can take learning outside, whether it's going for a walk and calculating the distance, and they're reinforcing the idea of decimals, or playing a basketball game outside and finding their percent of accuracy, or even doing things like redesigning a playground and having them do measurement, or having them do some writing outside and just connecting, or art, or photography, or painting a picture. So just try to take that learning outside, and the kids will just re-engage with what you're doing. Actually, my students say we went outside because they were just kind of like, we did a scavenger hunt. And it was a great way to re-engage them. So certainly think about ways that you can bring the learning outside. And finally, number 5, drum roll, bring choice and voice into your teaching practice. And this is so powerful. It's going to re-engage your students if they have a choice and a voice. So things like choice boards. If you haven't heard of that, definitely check it out. HyperDocs. There's an entire website called HyperDocs where you can just curate documents that have already been created on every single subject area. Google it. You can also do some other projects like, what's your dream job? I did a salary project with my kids where they had to talk about their future career and look up research and data for their job and find their annual salary and their weekly rate, and then planning an entire budget. So giving your students voice and choice, and let them decide how they want to present this to their peers. It could be having them do a Kahoot. And trust me, even a second grader could do a Kahoot. It could be having them create a Prezi. Or if they're studying about a certain time period, they could pretend with their colleagues or their peers to do a podcast, right? So many different ways that we can give our students choice and voice. And if you don't know, ask your kids. What are they into? What are they interested in? And how can you build that? Music is always a good one, right? Music and art. Building choice and voice into your subject areas and incorporating those arts in a meaningful way that allows your students to radiate. Well, thanks so much. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more videos on how you can bring your best into your teaching practice.